All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakal Kadash, giving double honors to the Apostle Elders Great Millstone, peace and blessings to brothers pushing his truth and sincerity, and Kwam Yasharala. All right, it's brother Napash Kodash coming at you again with another lesson, and this one is talking about. I'm gonna title it. I'm gonna title it something along the lines of you can't be carnally minded and looking for spiritual answers. All right, something along those lines. All right, because at the end of the day, the carnal, which really is going into the flesh, and the spirit, which is like literally going into your spirit, they fight against each other. All right, so you got to be on one accord with the spirit or one accord with your flesh. And that's the thing about it, because we was doing a live stream, I think last Sunday, and we was going into how these people, they see the signs, but they really don't have the understanding behind them. Like, yeah, you could tell, somebody could tell you the world is ending, but what does that mean for you? Yeah, you can see the world is ending, but really it's just an eon that's ending. The world ain't no asteroid flying out of nowhere destroying the earth. All the trees are not gonna die, 'cause that's not what's prophesied, right? We understand that it's just the end of an eon and that our rulership is next. These people think that when America fall, that's gonna be the end. It's just gonna be apocalyptic forever now. That's the end of the world. It's America. It's over with. No, that's not how this is gonna play out. And that's why I said you have to be spiritually minded and not carnally minded to understand these things. Because if you're being carnally minded, you're going to look at the signs. Like, on top of that, you're going to be a doomsday prepper. You're going to try to make a bunker in America. And I tell you right now, it ain't going to work. Right? But I'm going to get into these scriptures. This is Romans chapter 8, verse 6. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. And why? Because to be carnally minded, when you're dealing with the flesh, it's always going to lead to death. Show me anybody who prospered, who had inner peace, as you will say, who was always about the flesh. A man who only worried about a woman is never going to be satisfied. A man who trying to get some money, he's never going to be satisfied, because there's endless amounts of money to get. You'll never have it all. It's just when you being carnally minded, you'll never be satisfied, and you'll always be in a state of I need more. You'll never be satisfied. Yet to be spiritually minded is life and peace. When you spiritually minded, you're not really worried about anything, honestly. When you spiritually minded, you start getting better understanding of the scriptures. You just start to understand the scriptures. We know, being spiritually minded, food and raiment, and I'm good to go. As long as I got some food and I got some clothes, hey, those are the basic necessities of life to actually survive. What more can I ask for other than that? You have when you spiritually minded, you have like an inner peace type of mindset. Like you kind of don't care anymore. All right. It says, because the carnal mind is enmity against the Lord. And we're gonna look up the word enmity. I'm not saying that right, but it says hostility, a state of feeling or active opposition or hostility. So basically, it's just going to tell you it's opposite. Being carnally minded is opposite against the Lord. It say, for it is not subject to the law of the Lord, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please the Lord. You know why you can't? Because when you only worried about your flesh, that's the answer right there. You're only worried about your flesh. You don't care. Like when you walk around, ask somebody how they feel about the Lord. They don't really have an answer, because they don't consider the Lord. That's why Isaiah tell you, my people, they do have not considered. They don't consider the Lord. They just worry about hitting the next chick, getting the next bag. And if they're a little bit smarter, which it's still vain, but they're a little bit smarter, I got to get my credit score up. I'm getting ready to move to the suburbs and buy a house for me and my wife, and gonna settle down and have some kids. If they're a little bit smarter, they'll try to obtain better things. But at the end of the day, the man who want to buy a house for his wife and kids, and the man who want to get drunk and high all day, they're both going to return to the grave. So that's why it's all vanity. But the thing about it is those two men, even though one is more positive, it's still not righteous. It's not a righteous life because you're not serving the Lord. You're only worried about yourself. And when you even get into it, the two greatest commandments is love the Lord with all your heart and love thy neighbor as thyself. If you keep those two commandments, you will not sin. If you're only worried about yourself, you will not keep either one of those commandments. You're going to put the Lord off day by day. You're going to put yourself before the Lord. And, oh, but my family, they need me. No, you're taking care of your family because it feels good to take care of your family. That's why you're putting that before the Lord. Things like that, people will use that as an excuse, but the Lord wants me to take care of my family. Nigga, the Lord wants you to do what he asked you to do, which is to serve him with fear and trembling. Right? But this is the difference between the carnal mindset and the spiritual mindset. The spiritual man understand, hey, the Lord come before my family. Why? Because the Lord controls me, my family. If I serve the Lord will protect my family. That's the spiritual mindset. The carnal mindset is, oh, I haven't been to camp and I missed the high holy days. I was working overtime and, I was behind on the rent. The Lord control your rent, bro. Things like that. That's the difference between the carnal and the spiritual mindset. But these people, they're not going to get it. I'm going to end it right there on that because I want to get these other scriptures in too. It says 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 1. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in a Mashiach. And the reason why I brought this out was because it's at a certain level where the carnal man becomes spiritual. But you got to remember the difference in the spiritual and the carnal man is literally who's pleasing the flesh, who's pleasing the spirit. At a certain point in your life, you're going to switch over. Like he was going in right here. They weren't built up enough to understand him speaking spiritually. So basically, he probably couldn't go into Daniel 7. He probably couldn't go into certain Ezekiel chapters. He had to go over basic things that you could read. You could read Matthew's the 24th chapter and you could understand what it's saying for the most part. A lot of those verses are playing upon a table, right? But as you become this spiritual man, you start to understand, oh, when you see the lamb, when I see the lamb in the scriptures, I'm thinking about Yahweh Shah. It could literally be talking about a lamb, but my first thought is Yahweh Shah. I got to read the whole chapter to make sure it is talking about Yahweh Shah. But when I see lamb, I think Yahweh Shah because a lot of scriptures, when they say the lamb, it's talking about Yahweh Shah. That's me having a spiritual mindset. Do you think the lamb of the Lord is going to come back and save us? You think that's talking about an actual lamb? No. What the hell? But if you was carnally minded, something as carnal as that would be a stumbling block. And that's what Paul was getting at, even though that verse wasn't written yet. But it's a clear cut. Right? And I love this scripture because I just, I experienced this firsthand. I remember my camp head, we was at class, and basically he asked us a question. And everybody answered was carnal. But he was looking for like I forget exactly how it go, but it was a more spiritual answer, and we wasn't answering it wrong, but we was answering it the carnal aspect. And he brought this out, and it completely like, as soon as he brought it out, we understood what he was really asking. He wasn't asking for the carnal aspect; he was asking for the spiritual aspect. I forget the question, but I just remember like this scripture like really like it hit me deep. All right, but it say verse 2, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 2, I have fed you with milk and not with meat. For hereto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. And he wasn't literally giving them milk and meat. Is the milk is representative of basic scriptures. Your Genesis 25, I guess I'll just use that as an example. Genesis 25, that's your milk, right? It's other milk too. Don't get me wrong, but we're gonna use that one. You also got. You got the 10 Commandments, something that's milk. It's just certain things that a basic man can read and he can understand and he can apply them to his walk. That would be considered milk. All right. And then meat would be considered, like I said, some of your Daniel chapters, the whole book of Revelations, honestly. Things like that have, you read Revelations without a teacher or without understanding and you'll be bugged out. You'll think an actual beast gonna come from the ocean and walk around on Babylon and a harlot gonna be on his back. You'll be bugged out thinking that that's literally gonna happen like that, not knowing that the harlot is really America. And, you know, see, that's meat. You got to really go into that, you know, and thoroughly break that down. All right. It say, for ye are yet carnal, for whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men? And that's how you know that they were still being carnal. Because when you carnal, I'll give you the perfect example. When you in the world, these men were not in the world. They were coming into the faith. That's why he was teaching them, but he was telling them they were on a lower level. But a good example of this is when you in the world, you know, niggas are carnal in the world. I've never seen a spiritual nigga in the world. Never. It's not going to happen. But what happens with niggas in the world? They fall out with their friends. They reconcile. They fall out again. They reconcile with the next person over there. They fall out. No matter where they go, it's some type of falling out. Well, I don't eat this type of food. It turned into a fist fight. Now me and my friends not cool. You and your friends. It's strife. All right, because they're carnal. As to where when you with a brother, it's a more spiritual. If you don't like that type of food, the brother be like, all right, well, what you want to eat? It's just that simple. Because I don't want to argue with you because you don't want to eat this food. As to where nigga in the world with a carnal mind, he will beat your ass because you don't want to eat a corned beef sandwich, and you made him drive all the way to the corned beef shop and you changed your mind. He will fight you for that. As to where a brother be like, all right, well, pick where you want to go now. It's something as simple as that. That will divide the spiritual mind from the carnal mind. Because that's why the scriptures, matter of fact, I'm going to grab this scripture real quick. Because I didn't even have it lined up. Yep, here we go. This is 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. You know, when the scriptures talk about brute beasts, that's talking about a man, right? Well, when I think of a brute beast, I think of a King Von type individual. I think of a Trent Williams. Them type of niggas are brute beasts. Why? Because they react to nothing but the flesh. They do not consider anything. They kill, they murder, they rob, they steal. All right. They do everything contrary to the scriptures, and they don't care. It's the same thing that's why scriptures compared them to brute beasts. When you're looking at a fucking ox in the field, the ox is not considering, I wonder, wonder what I'm gonna do today. He's not wondering that. He's eating grass, he's grazing the field, and if you get too close to him, he's gonna kill you. That's how animals occupy. A lion, a brute beast, if it sees you, it's going to kill you. It's not going to consider if you have kids, how your day went. It's going to kill you. That's how these niggas are. They like brute beasts. You step on the wrong nigga's shoe, he's going to gun you down before you have a chance to apologize. Because those are his new Jordans. A straight nigga, a brute beast. All right. But to get back on it, this is I might have to do a part 2, honestly. But damn. Okay. I'm gonna end it with this. Matter of fact, this is Daniel chapter 4. It say, Nebuchadnezzar the king unto all people, nations, and languages that dwelt in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it was good to shew you the signs and wonders that the high Lord have wrought toward me. How great are his signs, how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. It say, I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my head and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. All right. And this man, this was a heathen, matter of fact, but he did have more of a spiritual mind than anything. I wouldn't call him a spiritual man, but what made him spiritual was the fact that he had a dream, and it's not no Martin Luther King dream. It's not no he didn't have a dream like that where he went on a fucking 40-minute rant that he didn't even write. But he had a vision, right? That's what made him afraid. Was it was a vision, but he couldn't understand it. The difference between a dream and a vision is the foreshadowing of things to come. A vision you're seeing the future. But a lot of times when the Lord's in a vision, the vision to be in parables, like when Joseph had the dream with the 7 stalks that was good and the 7 stalks that was bad. The 7 that was good was 7 years that they would have good harvest, and the other 7 years that they would have a famine, right? So, but only Joseph understood that, his dream. If you was to ask somebody else that dream, they'd be like, I don't know what that was talking about. Because you have to be spiritually minded. And that's why I said Nebuchadnezzar, he was being a little spiritual right here, because when he had the dream, which really was a vision, right? He called for all the wise men, because he already knew, I can't break this down. I'm just a king. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a wise man. I need one of these wise men with this knowledge to come break this down. And as you go into the story, right, it say, then came, verse 7, then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, and they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. So they couldn't understand it. Why? They weren't really spiritual men. These are sorcerers, basically a bunch of warlocks and witches, basically, right? It say, but at last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, in whom the spirit of the holy gods, and behold him I told the dream, saying, and I'm gonna kind of like skip over it a little bit, because long story short, the king, he had a dream. No Martin Luther King, but the king had a dream. King Nebuchadnezzar, he had a dream. He couldn't understand it. There was certain stuff going on, there. All right. It say, and he basically, this is what I wanted to get at. Daniel was able to answer the dream. But what made it spiritual was, he didn't go carnal about it. He went in a spiritual way. That's why I'm naming the title what I was going to name it. I forget what I said, but I'm going to get it. When you want a spiritual answer, you can't have a carnally minded mind. It's not going to work. If King Nebuchadnezzar would have went to the field and tried to find that, I think that was the beast in my dream, it wouldn't have worked, because that's not why the Lord gave him that dream. But Daniel, being a spiritual man, he knew Daniel was a man of the Lord. That's the key thing. That's where you go for your answers. Really, the people supposed to be going to the prophets for the answers, but they're being carnal right now. That's why the world is in such an uproar, because there's no understanding. They look around and, this and that and that. These people see the signs. Oh, there's great earthquakes in diverse places, but they don't know spiritually that means Yahushua is coming back. Oh, wow, it's raining in Texas, the most rain they ever had. There's got to be a sign of world ending. But you don't know that means Yahushua is coming back. You don't know that mean that the sea hip is around the corner. You don't know that Jacob's trouble is right there. You don't know that World War III is right there. You don't know that the eternal kingdom of heaven is right there. Those are what those signs are for, to tell you that these things are coming up. All right. Man, I hope this video was edifying. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakal Kadash, giving double honor to the apostle, elders, great millstone, peace and blessings, much pushing his truth, sincerity, and Kwam Yasharala.